program is made possible because of viewers like you. Today I'm going to talk about how to identify the positive and negative on your clip cord, especially if you have a cord that is not identified, and how to identify the direction of your capacitor and how that will affect the way you hook up your clip cord. So keep watching and you'll pick up a bunch of cool stuff. The first thing you want to pick up is a voltmeter. You can get these from a lot of places, probably Walmart or AutoZone. They don't cost very much and they come in handy. Add this to your toolbox and it will help you with working on your machines. So make sure you read the instructions on how to hook this up. It will come with the voltmeter, because you can switch these wires around to give you different readings. You want to set it up right here. It allows you to use these to get a reading on your voltage. So first thing I'm going to do is show you a battery with this. So this is your C battery, typical C battery, and it's 1.5 volts. So to see if this works correctly, make sure this battery is charged. I have it hooked up, so red's positive, black's negative. So this side of the battery is negative and this side is positive. So if this battery is good, by touching this, I should get 1.5 volts or something in that area on my voltmeter. 1.3. Positive, positive, negative, negative. Another thing that is important is I'm going to switch this around and hook my negative to my positive and my positive to my negative. Now, see how I get the same reading, but there's this negative sign right here that pops up, and this lets me know that my positive and negative are reversed. If you want to see a good video on electricity and checking your voltage with your equipment, you can watch Sin City Tattoos. Has a video to make sure that you're not losing voltage. So here is your power supply, and this power supply will allow you to go to 18 volts. If I touch my positive and negative, I get 18.3 volts. And you guys might not be able to see this, but it says 18 on my power supply. So I have 18 here, but at the end of my clip cord I have 18.3. Now here's the important thing to remember for this video. Again, keep an eye on our little symbol here. Positive and negative. This is the red one's my positive. I know this already. I will show you guys how to figure that out, but positive and negative are hooked up correctly there's no sign. 18.3 volts. Switch it around. I know I have it backwards because I have this symbol here. Same numbers, just let me know that my positive's hooked up to my negative and my negative's hooked up to my positive. It might sound like I'm repeating myself, but I'm making a point here, and you will see my point pretty soon. So here is another power supply I have, one of these little cheap ones, and this one will read 2 volts and it will really be putting out 3 volts. This puts out an extra volt from what the reading is, so the reading's off. Just like the reading is off on this one, the reading is off on this one. So the reading on this one is lower, so I know if I'm running 14.7 volts, I'm probably actually at 15 volts. But on this one, if I'm running 2 volts, I'm actually running at 3 volts. So you want to check your power supply and make sure that you know if it's high or low, and then adjust accordingly when you're tattooing. So for my rotary machines, I know if I set this at 5, this is actually 5.3. So if I want exactly 5, I would adjust it to 4.7. Here's your phone plug, and this runs to a cord that is not marked. If I take this phone plug apart and pull off this sheath here, you can see that there's a long side and a short side. Short side goes to the middle, long side connects to the outside. Your short side is positive, your long side is negative. So if you figure that out and look at your wire, you can see this wire has nothing on one side and a white line on the other side. So that's how I keep my positive and negative straight, is when I solder these, I put the white stripe side to the positive. But if you don't have that, you have to follow what side of the cord is hooked up to your positive, and then figure out what side of that cord goes to which side of your clip cord, which on this one you can see the white stripe is going up to this one. This one's my positive. If that's the case, you want to mark this somehow so that you know this one's positive and this one's negative. And the other way to find your positive and negative without taking your phone plug apart is to hook up your voltmeter and see if you get a positive or negative on your voltmeter, which I don't have a negative, so the positive that I'm touching with the positive probe is the positive side. People make equipment and companies just make really cheap, crappy equipment, and what happens is you might get something that someone connected and they have no idea what they were doing. So especially with tattoo equipment, you get a lot of mistakes, and this is why you need to double check all of your equipment and make sure that it is not messed up. I've gotten power sources that overheated. As soon as it showed up, I plugged it in and it started overheating. So if you've just plugged in your power supply and you feel it heating up, like hot to the touch, then that's bad. You want to unplug that as soon as possible and return it. Make sure any tattoo equipment you buy you can return it if it doesn't work properly and get your money back. And that way you can take your money and go buy some other equipment that works. So we know we have a positive and negative at our phone plug. And we know that that positive and negative goes to the clip cord. Now, once it comes to the tattoo machine itself, you don't really have a positive or negative on the machine. It can go either way. You can have your front post positive and your rear post negative, but the majority of people set this up positive to the rear, negative to the front. You can switch a machine positive and negative, the clip cord. It doesn't matter on a machine that does not have a capacitor. And if you hook it up this way, your positive is down here and your negative is up here. Now I can switch this around, and now my negative is down here and my positive is up here, just from switching my negative and positive on the clip cord.
Now, if I would have reversed the battery, of course we would end up with this, a fully charged capacitor with the opposite polarity.
The positive is now on the spring and the negative is on the rear post, like I have on my clip cord. If I switch it around, same hookup. I'm not moving these around, they're going in the same place. That negative sign disappears because my positive and my negative have switched just by me switching my clip cord. Now the problem is this machine has no capacitor on it, and you don't usually run your machine like that, so that's fine, hooking this up either way. But what happens once you add a capacitor to this machine? You can see that a capacitor has a positive and negative. Because of that, you need to hook up your clip cord accordingly. You might say that's not important, but it is. Why would they give you a direction if it wasn't important?
If we put a non-polarized capacitor in a circuit, it doesn't matter which way we connect it, and the symbol doesn't show you any polarization, so it's easy to see. A polarized capacitor has this curved bar on the bottom that indicates which way it's supposed to go in a circuit. The curved contact goes to the lower voltage. If we put a polarized capacitor in the wrong way, then it can explode.
And you might be able to use this machine for a long time because the capacitor has a rating, voltage rating on it. Usually go to 50 volts on the ones I have. And we saw that our power supply won't go over 18. So you're not maxing out the voltage on this thing. So it will run the wrong way and it might not overheat as much because you're only using 5 volts. But if you want your capacitor to malfunction, hook it up the wrong way. So you need to figure that out to know which direction to hook up your clip cord, or you want to do some work on all your machines and switch your capacitor around. Up to this point we've been talking about coil machines, but I haven't talked about rotaries. So here's a couple of rotaries. Now, it is said that the rotary should turn in a clockwise motion. So on this one, the mechanism is on top and it causes this hammer. This is a hammer rotary. It's got a hammer motion. The spinning on top drives the needle up and down. So looking at this machine, here's the clip cord hookups. So on this machine, I'm going to look where this is rotating right here. This way is clockwise, and this way is counterclockwise. So if it spins to the right, we're going clockwise. If it spins to the left, counterclockwise. Now if I just click on this, how are you going to tell that it's spinning around and what direction it's going? So if you turn down the voltage as much as you can, on this one I turned it down about 2.6 volts. You can see it's barely moving. Now if I take my clip cord and look at this and touch it, see that little bolt in there spinning around? You can see what direction it's going. So with my positive on the bottom and my negative on top, I know it is going this direction. Now, certain rotary machines are only supposed to run one direction. So if it is running the opposite direction, if it's supposed to be going clockwise and you're going counterclockwise because you've hooked up your clip cord incorrectly, it could damage the machine. So let me show you this: positive bottom, negative on top. If I switch these around, watch what direction this is going in now. Okay, there you see how it's going the opposite direction. So if this machine isn't set up to run this way, then I could be damaging my machine. So by flipping my clip cord around, it will run the way that it's supposed to. So you have to look up the manufacturer of the machine and see what direction it's supposed to go in, or ask somebody about it. Some people say that their machines run better when they're hooked up correctly. You can hear it. On this one I can't, so I will just contact the manufacturer and see what direction this should be running. Now on this machine, it spins around in the front. So I would just do the same thing for this machine as I did on the other one. So right now it's going this way, so we're going clockwise. Flip it around again, positives on the bottom. So I'm telling you right now, a majority of the machines I have seen, the positive goes on the bottom unless it is hooked up differently, but the majority is that way. So I just put the negative on the bottom. Give it a little more voltage. Okay, so on this machine, it doesn't want to run correctly. It took a little more to run it the opposite direction. So on this machine, I might say that it does run better when it is hooked up correctly. So on both machines I would see what's recommended by the manufacturer, especially if these were expensive machines, which they are not. So if I had an expensive machine, I would be a little more worried about hooking it up correctly, because if you hook it up incorrectly, you can burn the motor out of your machine because it will spin it the wrong direction. So you can see that the direction of your clip cord matters for rotary machines if they're supposed to go a certain direction. And it matters for a coil machine if you have a capacitor that is set up to go a certain direction.